Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. The big news over the weekend was George Stephanopoulos and ABC News apologizing to President-elect Trump and agreeing to pay a $15 million settlement on the defamation suit. Details on that in just a moment. Bernie Sanders tells ABC News that he understands Joe Biden pardoning his son Hunter, but is concerned about the precedent that the president has now set. Daniel Penny calls quite the stir as he joined President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Vance at the Army-Navy game on Saturday, and a D.C. restaurant server has been fired after comments about refusing service to some Trump officials as Trump 2.0 returns to the capital city.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson Bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson Bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Big story over the weekend, ABC News and their so-called top anchor, George Stephanopoulos, settling a defamation lawsuit with President-elect Donald Trump. Boy, he has had a good month or so, hasn't he? Winning the election as he has, and now this major lawsuit where ABC agrees to pay him $15 million plus an apology. What's that worth? Let's break this down. Here's what we learned. This all started, of course, back in March when Stephanopoulos, during an interview with South Carolina Representative Nancy Mace, made the absolutely false claim, not once, not twice, but 10 times that Trump had been found liable for rape. Now, folks, even the courts didn't say that. The jury's verdict was for sexual abuse, which according to New York law is not the same thing as rape. But did that stop Stephanopoulos from repeating the lie? No, he repeated it 10 different times in that one broadcast. So what happens when you smear the president-elect of the United States? You get called out. Trump, of course, sued ABC. ABC's decided to settle it rather than face a public, costly, and probably embarrassing trial. And as part of the deal, they had to issue a statement of regret for their inaccurate reporting. In other words, they had to admit that they were wrong. George Stephanopoulos had to admit that he was wrong. Their little editor's note reads, ABC News and George Stephanopoulos regret statements regarding President Donald J. Trump made during an interview by George Stephanopoulos with Representative Nancy Mace on ABC's This Week on March 10th, 2024. Want me to translate that for you? Whoops, we lied, we got caught, now we're paying up. That's what it amounts to. And let's not forget, this is the same George Stephanopoulos who used to be a top aide for Bill Clinton. He's supposed to be a, quote, journalist, but he's always been a Democrat operative pretending to be neutral. And when he got slapped with the lawsuit, he even told Stephen Colbert that he wouldn't be cowed out of doing his job. Well, looks like he got cowed after all, huh? The settlement is just the latest in a string of legal victories for Trump. Remember, he's been dealing with politically motivated lawsuits left and right. I mean, I don't know how the guy survives. I don't know how he puts up with it. I don't know how he doesn't just stay in bed all day. But guess what? He keeps on winning. Federal Judge Tanya Chutkan tossed out Jack Smith's case against Trump for the 2020 election. And in the classified records case, another judge ruled that Jack Smith was unlawfully appointed and dismissed those charges. I mean, the man is on a winning streak like we've never seen before. Meanwhile, let's talk about Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg's case against Trump. It's falling apart. Judge Juan Merkin granted Trump's request to file a motion to dismiss the bogus charges. Now, you couldn't write this script for a Hollywood movie. Every time they try to take Trump down, he somehow seems to come out stronger. Maybe because he has the people behind him. Now, the next up, CBS. He has CBS in sights as he is suing them for $10 billion with a B. He says they've engaged in deceptive conduct in that interview with Kamala Harris to interfere with the election. You know what? He's probably right. The media's been doing everything they can to stop Trump. They did everything they could to try to boost Kamala Harris. It just didn't work. At the end of the day, this ABC settlement is a huge win for Donald Trump and a massive black eye for the liberal media. They're getting exposed for what they really are. They're partisan hacks who will say anything to smear Trump and try to protect their buddies on the left. But guess what? The American people are waking up, and they're sick of it. And they showed that on November the 5th. Meanwhile, it seems like the meltdown over at MSNBC is in full swing over Donald Trump's winning this victory against the fake news media. The liberal media is absolutely losing it over ABC's agreement to settle with Trump. For example, Barbara McQuaid is an MSNBC legal analyst. She's worried this settlement will, quote, have a chilling effect on media outlets who want to be critical of Trump. Well, let me tell you, it's real simple here. You can criticize, but you got to stick with the facts, lady. You can't lie. You can't make it up. Donald Trump has a thick skin. Criticize him all you want to, just stick with the facts, and you won't be at the on the other side of one of his lawsuits. Harry Littman, who thinks ABC's boardroom is somehow bending to Trump just because he's about to be president again, he said. Simone Sanders, she flat out says Stephanopoulos wasn't wrong. Yeah, sure, because who needs to admit when they've messed up? Who needs to admit when they just told a flat out lie? Mark Elias, the Democrat super lawyer, crying on social media that ABC News bent the knee, he said. I mean, these people are just so used to getting their way and to say whatever they want to, report whatever they want to. Nobody calls them out. Well, Donald Trump called them out. And this case, beyond the $15 million, beyond the apology, maybe it has media on their toes. Maybe they'll think twice before they try this again, because in the past, they could say anything they wanted to and get away with it. Trump has put them on notice. You say it, you better be able to back it up. Because here's the reality. This isn't a chilling effect, as this lady says. It's about the media facing accountability, finally. They've spent years twisting the facts. And now they've finally been held responsible, and they're trying to play the victim card. They're trying to play, we shouldn't have had to have done that. Now we can't do our jobs. Well, it's not just ABC. It's going to be interesting to watch CBS News and how they defend themselves against the $10 billion election interference charge. The mainstream media, again, thought they could do anything. They thought they could smear, they could slander Trump without consequences. And this case is saying, hey, folks, this era is over. The truth matters, and the American people are seeing these media giants for who they really are. Speaking of Trump 2.0, last week I told you about the story of a Washington, D.C. area restaurant. It's called Bookert's Saloon. It's on Capitol Hill. And one of their servers there, Suzanne Van Roy, remember that name? She openly declared that she would refuse to serve Trump administration officials if they chose to come to their restaurant. She had this posted all over social media. Van Roy told the Washingtonian that she had refused service to anyone who, in her words, was a sex trafficker or trying to deport millions of people. Now, that's not just partisan. That's just hostile. That's unprofessional. She even claimed that it wasn't about hating Republicans. Sure sounded like it to me. Well, guess what? Bookert's Saloon, they're not having it. Thank goodness. Common sense prevails. The restaurant took one look at her comments and said, "You're fired." They fired her and put out a statement calling her remarks reprehensible and a violation of their zero-tolerance policy on discrimination. And good for them. Imagine walking into a restaurant and being told you're not welcome because of who you voted for. I mean, that's just not American. It gets worse. Van Roy didn't stop there. She actually hacked into the restaurant's social media accounts in the middle of the night, according to the story, to post her own ridiculous, offensive rhetoric, evidently without the restaurant's permission. Buchertz had to clarify that she wasn't a manager and had no authority to speak for the restaurant. And they were playing around. They called her behavior unforgivable and said that they were horrified to be associated with her type of prejudice. You know, this isn't the first time we've seen this type of nonsense. Remember when Sarah Huckabee Sanders got kicked out of the restaurant in Virginia? When Kirsten Nielsen was harassed while trying to eat at a D.C. Mexican place? And, of course, it's part of that leftist resistance culture where some people think that it's perfectly fine to bully and discriminate against anyone that they don't agree with. But you know what? This is another instance of where Americans are fed up with this type of intolerance. They're sick of being labeled bad people because they support conservative policies and voted for Donald Trump. And I think we're going to have more situations like this, and probably more people getting fired if they want to have that type of attitude. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. If you've been putting off a visit to PhD Weight Loss, now's your time because it comes with an amazing free gift. Joey Hudson here. During December, the founder of PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas, is giving the first 100 people to sign up for a consultation a free weight loss and energy supplement bundle. What a great gift. Do what I did. Take control now before heading into the indulgent holiday season. Get a grasp and avoid the holiday pounds. I dropped over 30 pounds and I'm not worried about parties and overeating because my PhD coach taught me coping mechanisms to help me enjoy holiday events without gaining the weight. Best of all, I never took a weight loss drug. I'm not dependent on a prescription. And I was never hungry. PhD Weight Loss is not about depriving yourself. Lose the awful belly fat, gain energy, and avoid weight-related health issues. You will feel so amazing about yourself and truly enjoy the holiday season. PhD Weight Loss. Ask about the free gift when you book your consultation. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or go to myphdweightloss.com. Now, this is a great story. Think about this. In just 6 days' time, Marine veteran Daniel Penny went from staring down a potential prison sentence to standing shoulder to shoulder with President-elect Donald Trump, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance in a luxury suite watching a football game. and it's got a lot of people talking. Penny, who was acquitted last Monday by a Manhattan jury in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely, got a hero's welcome on Saturday. He was the personal guest of Vice President-elect J.D. Vance at the annual Army-Navy football game in Landover, Maryland. And not just that, as I said, President Donald Trump was there as well, standing with Penny, shaking hands, posing for photos, waving to the crowd, chanting, USA, USA. Also in the suite, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth, Intelligence Director nominee Tulsi Gabbard, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and the one and only Elon Musk. This wasn't just a football game, folks. It was a power statement. Wow. For him to be in that suite watching this football game, these folks were saying, hey, we're sorry for that this happened to you, but we're behind you. We support you, and it should not have happened to you. Let's not forget that what Vance said. He called Penny a good guy and slammed New York's far-left district attorney Alvin Bragg for trying to ruin Penny's life just for doing what needed to be done. Vance said he was grateful Penny accepted his invitation and that he hoped he could enjoy the game knowing how many Americans admire his courage. And folks, this is a clear example of what happens when the average citizen is sick and tired of crime running rampant in our cities. The jury in Penny's case, they didn't fall for Bragg's nonsense. And now Penny's being recognized for standing up and helping innocent people, protecting innocent people, something that he was trained to do in the Marines. And that's what happens when you have the backbone to face the chaos that we live in some situations. Tulsi Gabbard, who was there, put it perfectly. She said standing alongside courageous Americans like Daniel Penny was special. She called Penny a symbol of the courage of our nation's warrior show, whether in uniform or not. And she's right, isn't she? This wasn't just a game. It was a tribute to service to freedom, to unity. And let's not forget how this case stirred up the usual suspects. The left-wing politicians like AOC called it murder. State Senator Jabari Brisport said Neely was lynched. Really? Lynched? A guy who was threatening passengers on a subway and had a long rap sheet of assaulting people and drug offenses, and he was lynched? Even New York City's Mayor Eric Adams admitted the system failed. But guess what, Mr. Mayor? It's your system. The same system that's turning law-abiding citizens into targets while letting violent offenders roam free. Not to mention all the illegal aliens walking up and down your streets that you have been housing and feeding. Meanwhile, Trump, Vance, and a whole lot of other Americans, we know what's really happening here. Penny's acquittal was justice, plain and simple. And this invite to watch the Army-Navy game was simply a recognition of that. This is a guy who did the right thing under horrible circumstances, and the nation's patriots are standing by him. By the way, the Army-Navy game itself, Navy won 31-13. Wasn't really a close game. This is, of course, is a big rivalry game between these two. The real headline was what happened off the field, though. Seeing President-elect Trump there, Vice President-elect Vance there, and Penny together. That sent the message loud and clear that the silent majority is awake, and we're not putting up with the lawlessness anymore. The left can cry all they want to, but can't you just feel it in the air? Can't you feel the tide is turning? People are standing up in a good way. I mean, I'm more encouraged, I think, than I've ever been about the direction that our country is heading and all the things that we're going to be able to do in these next 4 years. Also, big news coming out of the incoming Trump administration and their bold plans of taking a sledgehammer, literally, out of controlling federal spending. Elon Musk seems like he is everywhere with Donald Trump these days. And, of course, he's leading the team charge along with Vivek Ramaswamy as they've been tapped to lead the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency known as DOGE. Musk and Ramaswamy are starting to give some specifics on what their plan is going to look like, how they're going to cut spending. And, you know, Musk has set his sights on cutting $2 trillion. Now, whether he can or not, we'll see. But that he keeps throwing that number of $2 trillion out there. So where's some of this going to come from based on some of the things that they've said? Well, let's start with the IRS. DOGE wants to simplify the tax code, and I'm all for that. It has ballooned from 1.5 million words back in 1955 to 16 million words today. So think about that. Since 1955, 1.5 million words could describe our tax code. Now it takes 16 million. We spend 6.5 billion hours just filing tax returns. It's ridiculous. And Musk and Ramaswamy say it's time to cut the complexity and give taxpayers their time back. I agree. The Department of Defense, the Pentagon just failed its 7th consecutive audit. We're talking about an $824 billion budget, and DOD can't fully account for it. Musk says they're going to have to do better. Sounds like a job for DOGE. You agree? Also, they're not going to stop there. Congress authorized $516 billion for programs with expired authorizations. Some of them expired over a decade ago. So, in other words, these are projects and programs that were set up for on a temporary basis, and they've just continued. Musk and Ramaswamy are saying enough is enough, and they're going to target the federal workforce as well. Ramaswamy says it's time to end telework and get government employees back to their office. They're sitting on thousands of vacant buildings, and that's just nuts, too. The federal government also spends, according to Musk and Ramaswamy, $80 billion a year on outdated IT systems. They're expensive to operate, plus they don't even do a good job of protecting our data. And there's a whole list. They're going to tackle foreign aid. They're going to go after the National Institutes of Health, Dr. Fauci's old agency, and many more. This is so exciting to watch, folks, to see how these guys are going to dig in. And here's one thing that's important, though. They made it very clear not to fall for the left's cries that they're going to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security benefits. They say those are off the table. So don't let the left convince you that they're going to go after Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits. They're not going to do it. They made that very clear. It's going to be fun to watch. Have you finished with your Christmas shopping yet? Well, I have some good news for you. MyPillow is glad to announce that their Christmas extravaganza is continuing. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98 when you use promo code Joey. And they're not going to last very long at this price. The famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. They're regularly priced at $119.98. Now, with promo code Joey, you can get them for $59.98. And the 6-piece towel set, these towels, you've heard me talk about them. They're very soft, but yet they are absorbent. Most times, you're not going to get a towel this absorbent. When you use promo code Joey, when you go to MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4059, you're going to get them for just $29.98 with promo code Joey. $29.98 for a 6-piece towel set. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. Go to MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4059. Use promo code Joey to get the very best deal on every single item, and Merry Christmas to you. I have an update for you on the drone story that we have been following for weeks now, and it gets even crazier day by day. First, though, speaking of crazy, let's talk about crazy Bernie Sanders. He was chiming in over the weekend on NBC's Meet the Press about Joe Biden pardoning his son, Hunter Biden. This is a story that just will not go away for Joe Biden. On the one hand, Senator Bernie Sanders says in his typical style, he played the compassion card, saying that he understood Biden's instinct as a father to protect his son, but he told Kirsten Welker that he's concerned about the precedent that this made.
Let me ask you about President Biden's pardon of his son, Hunter. Former Biden senior advisor Anita Dunn said she agrees with the decision to pardon them. She disagrees with how it was carried out, the criticism of the Justice Department. And I want to remind you of what we heard from President Biden himself on this topic earlier this year. Take a look.
Will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes. I said I abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Senator, was it the right decision for the country to pardon Hunter Biden?
Well, I think two things. When you have his opponents going after his family, as a father, as a parent, I think we can all understand Biden trying to protect his son and his family. On the other hand, I think the precedent being set is kind of a dangerous one. It was a very wide open pardon, which could, under different circumstances, lead to problems in terms of future presidents.
Do you think he could hurt his legacy with this pardon, Senator?
Well, I think his legacy is a strong legacy. I think President Biden on domestic policies has been perhaps the most progressive president in American history since FDR. And I think the economy today, in many ways, is in very strong shape. But I do believe, as President Trump comes into office, we have got to understand, Kristen, and this is something I feel very strongly about, and it's not talked about enough. We are moving rapidly into an oligarchic form of society. Never before in American history have so few billionaires, so few people had so much wealth and so much power. Never before has there been so much concentration of ownership, sector after sector, power of Wall Street, and never before in American history, and we better talk about this, have the people on top had so much political power. We can't go around the world saying, oh, well, in Russia, Putin has an oligarchy. Well, we got an oligarchy here, too. And in this last election, in both parties, billionaires spent huge amounts of money to elect their candidates. Here in the state of Vermont, we believe we have town meetings, one person, one vote. That's democracy, not billionaires buying elections. Those are the issues we got to focus on. We got to rebuild the middle class. 60% of our people live in paycheck to paycheck. We're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. Many seniors are struggling, high rates of childhood poverty. So I look forward to working with President Trump. When he has ideas that are going to help the working class, we will vigorously oppose him if he wants to attack democracy or women's rights to control their own bodies.
Okay, Bernie. Okay, all right. Look, we've already proven the fact that Donald Trump is not attacking democracy. So let's get past that. No parent wants to see their child suffer consequences, and I get that. Bernie, we get that. But this is the president of the United States we're talking about. You can't just pass out get-out-of-jail-free cards like Joe Biden is doing, particularly to your family. And as Bernie himself admitted, this kind of blanket pardon is dangerous. He said it could set a dangerous precedent and could lead to major problems with future presidents. Well, you're right, Bernie. You think? It's like Bernie knows that this is a bad look for Biden, but he just can't help himself by playing both sides of the fence, or at least trying to play both sides. Now, here's where things get a little ridiculous. Bernie also claimed that Joe Biden leaves behind a strong legacy because of his progressive policies. He even went so far as to call Biden the most progressive president since FDR. You heard him say that. Now, surely Bernie Sanders recognizes the fact that progressive legacy is why Joe Biden is being shown the door and why Kamala Harris was beaten so miserably. Do you think that Bernie Sanders did not get the message that we sent by sending Donald Trump back to the White House with a mandate? I mean, let me translate this for you. Biden has been a disaster on domestic policy. The man has spent more money than any president in history, driven inflation through the roof, crippled our energy sector, flooded our border with illegal immigrants. And if Bernie Sanders' idea of that being a strong legacy, if that's what he calls a successful progressive legacy, the Democrats are in bigger trouble than I thought they were. And get this, Bernie had the nerve to say the economy is in very strong shape. Who has he been talking to? Strong shape for who, Bernie? Maybe for the bureaucrats in D.C., but not for the hardworking Americans who are getting crushed by Bidenflation, high gas prices still, skyrocketing grocery bills that no end in sight. This is what happens when out-of-touch socialists try to gaslight the American people. And it didn't work. Bernie, it didn't work. Have you not read the headlines? But it doesn't stop there. Bernie also said he's ready to work with President-elect Trump on raising the minimum wage. Well, Trump has acknowledged that the current federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, which hasn't changed since 2009, is probably too low. But here's the thing, Bernie. He's not going to go to $17, $20 an hour like you want to. Nobody wants people working for peanuts, but raising the minimum wage that high? No. It's a guaranteed way to destroy small businesses and kill jobs, like the fast food sector and what we're seeing happen to them in California when California mandated a $20 an hour wage. What are fast food restaurants doing? They're automating more, and in some cases, they're even closing locations that are not performing well. A lot of people have lost their jobs because of it. When you force businesses to pay more than they can afford, they're going to do just that. They're going to lay off workers, and in some cases, they're going to have to raise prices. And guess who suffers? The very American worker that you're trying to help. Remember, Bernie, you tried to push a $15 minimum wage just 2 years ago, and not a single Republican supported it. Why? Because conservatives understand basic economics. Raising wages artificially without improving productivity leads to higher unemployment, and it fuels that inflation. Bernie says he hopes lawmakers can work in a bipartisan way to raise the minimum wage. Well, if bipartisan, he means ramming through another socialist policy that'll hurt the middle class, he could forget it because Republicans aren't going to do that. Trump's not going to do that. No way. I mean, the bottom line is this. At the end of the day, Bernie Sanders' comments just highlight the desperation of the left, right? You agree? They know Biden's pardon of Hunter was a terrible decision. They know the economy is struggling, and they know their progressive policies are failing. And we know the good news. We know President-elect Trump is ready to clean up the mess. He's focused on America First policies that actually work, policies that support our workers, that secure our border, and will get this country back on track. All right, drones. We continue. That is a story that is dominating the headlines still. Senator Chuck Schumer from New York is calling on the federal government to deploy better drone tracking technology after we've seen increasing reports of the unmanned aircrafts, particularly around his area of New York and that New Jersey area where originated a few weeks ago. The Associated Press reported that Schumer called on the Department of Homeland Security to deploy technology that improves the ability to identify and track drones to their landing locations, according to briefings from his office. Schumer posted on X, "I'm calling for Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to deploy special drone detection technology across New York and New Jersey, and I'm working to pass a bill in the Senate to give local law enforcement more tools for drone detection." The New York senator's call comes, as public becomes growingly concerned about the federal government not being able to provide clear explanations on who's operating the drones and why they've not been stopped. National security officials have stated the drones do not appear to be operated by foreign governments and have even noted the aircraft in question are in fact unmanned. In some cases, they claim they're small aircraft. Last week, President-elect Trump posted on social media, "Can this really be happening without our government's knowledge?" I don't think so. Some have called to just shoot them down. It's just crazy that they don't know where these drones are coming from and who they belong to. It kind of makes you suspect, right? I'm not buying the whole story. Meanwhile, small drones were spotted over Wright-Patterson Air Force Base near Dayton, Ohio over the weekend. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Chief of Public Affairs, Rob Perdeman, confirmed to media yesterday that small unmanned aerial systems were spotted over in the vicinity of the Air Force Base between Friday and Saturday. In a statement, he said, "To date, installation leaders have determined that none of the incursions impacted base residents, facilities, or assets." He said, "We're taking all appropriate measures to safeguard Wright-Patterson and its residents." He also encouraged individuals who spot anything suspicious, including drone or unmanned aerial system activity, to contact local police or security forces personnel. The news, of course, comes as a lot of concern continues to grow in the New Jersey area, New York area. New Jersey, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is calling on the federal government to take a look at he says he has actually seen drones himself. And Boston law enforcement officials arrested 2 men for flying a drone dangerously close to Logan International Airport on Saturday. It's just crazy that we have this going on and federal officials don't seem to know how to get it under control. Do you believe they're drones? Do you believe they have ill intent? Your comments are welcome. You can text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Prosecutors in Manhattan say they're moving forward with murder charges against Luigi Mangione, the man accused of the cold-blooded killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Now, you'd think the focus here would be on justice of the victim, right? But there's been an unusual response in some areas, like what's making headlines is a defense fund for Mangione that's raised over $100,000 in donation. An anonymous group calling itself the December 4th Legal Committee has set up a fundraiser on Give, Send, Go. They claim they're just supporting the constitutional right to a fair trial. But let's be clear here. The message these donations send is a little disturbing, is it not? We've talked about turning an accused murderer into some kind of martyr? Is this not what we're talking about? Law enforcement officials are worried, and they should be. I mean, when did supporting violence become the way to make a political point? And that looks like what they're trying to do here. We can all agree that the healthcare system has its issues, but ambushing and executing someone in broad daylight, that's not justice. That's anarchy. And yet thousands of people are chipping in to support Mangione, even leaving messages thanking him for sparking awareness. Really? And while Give, Send, Go is standing by their policy, other platforms like GoFundMe have taken down similar campaigns, calling them a violation of their terms. Even big names like Amazon and Etsy have pulled free Luigi merchandise off of their sites. But for some, it's not enough. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg is on a high alert, promising to hold anyone accountable who thinks this kind of behavior is acceptable. And, you know, maybe for once, Alvin Bragg is somewhat correct on this. I don't know that we can encourage this type of action, yet so many people have. There's been a huge mixed reaction to this. And let's not lose sight of the victim here, and that's Brian Thompson. Yes, he made millions of dollars, but he was a husband. He was a father. He was a man doing the job that the company had hired him to do. And now his life is gone. Am I wrong here? Am I missing the mark? Supporters say that Luigi Mangione is just a symbol. Symbols matter, though. And what kind of message are we sending when violence is celebrated? But this is just the beginning of it. I mean, raising money for his defense is one thing. There's a new level of what I would call insanity from the radical left in this as well. For example, there's a so-called socialist apparel company whose founder is creating a deck of most wanted CEO playing cards, complete with targets, faces, and names. The guy's name is James Haar, according to the New York Post. He's the founder of something called Comrade Workwear, and he thinks this is just good fun. It comes, of course, just, a week or so after United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was gunned down. The deck of cards targets corporate executives, just like the playing cards that were used to hunt down Saddam Hussein's regime during the Iraqi war. Except we're not talking about terrorists here. We're talking about American CEOs. According to the Post, the deck is divided into suits based on different industries: pharmaceuticals, tech, retail, oil, you name it. And each card comes complete with a gun range target illustration and even a QR code label why they're evil. You can scan the QR code and it pulls up a complete page of information on the CEO. And here's sort of the twisted part. Haar's social media is flooded with comments from followers who are celebrating the idea. They think it's the coolest thing around. Some are asking if the cards will include addresses. Others are hailing the alleged killer, Luigi Mangione, as some kind of hero. I mean, is this not the radical left that we're constantly fighting against? They don't just hate capitalism. Now they're glorifying violence against those who built successful businesses. I guess if you're a successful CEO, then you deserve what you get, if that means your murder. This Haar guy claims he's not encouraging violence, but when you put a CEO's face on a playing card with a gun range target and you label them as most wanted, what are you suggesting? Is he not encouraging violence? Will some sicko not get us a deck of these cards with the idea that he's going to hunt some of these CEOs down? I mean, I just think this is dangerous. And I think that we're encouraging violence, and we're making it easy for some sicko to do this. I mean, the fallout's already happening. United Healthcare and other major corporations have started scrubbing the names of their top executives from their website so that it's a little bit harder for people to realize who their CEOs are. They're worried, and they should be. Private security firms are being flooded with calls from CEOs who fear they might be the next on the target list. I mean, think about this. In America, CEOs, many of whom are responsible for thousands of jobs and billions of dollars in economic growth, are now being threatened and forced into hiding because of some radical left intimidation, because these people think they make too much money. It's evil because they're making millions of dollars. This is the same left that constantly preaches about tolerance and peace, unity, bringing the country together. I guess that doesn't mean CEOs who make a lot of money. I mean, these are the left needs to think about this. These are the same CEOs, some of whom gave hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to the $1.5 billion that Kamala Harris just squandered trying to get elected president. But when it comes to people who run these successful businesses, who make the $1 million plus bonuses, the leftists have no problem with dehumanizing and targeting these CEOs in their warped worldview. In their mind, success is a crime. So where's the mainstream media on this? Where's the CBS's and the ABC's and the MSNBC's reporting on this? A deck of playing cards with CEOs on there with their information, their names, the companies? Wow. Imagine if the roles were reversed. Imagine if someone made a deck of cards targeting left-wing activists or progressive politicians, for example. The outrage would be deafening. But when it's conservative targets or corporate executives, silence is deafening. Crickets, nothing. And this isn't about politics anymore. This is about common decency and respect for human life, is it not? I mean, we can't allow this toxic culture of hate to spread any further. CEOs, business leaders, everyday Americans have the right to live and work without fear of being targeted by these deranged radicals. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what kind of company you work for. It's time for law enforcement, political leaders to step up on both sides of the aisle. We need the Nancy Pelosi's and the Bernie Sanders. We need the left to step up and say, this is not right. Enough is enough. Threats and incitement to violence have no place in our society. Not against CEOs, not against anyone. And the sooner, the better. Wow. Also, Fox News Digital is reporting that Mangione has retained a high caliber attorney, Karen Friedman, a New York attorney and former CNN legal analyst. You know, last week it was announced he had this crackpot from Pennsylvania. But it now appears, where the money's coming from, I don't know. But it now appears that he has a very well-known, she spent 7 years as the number 2 in the Manhattan DA's office under Cyrus Vance. She knows the ins and out of the New York justice system. It's going to be interesting to watch. That's it for today's show. Tara's up next, followed by Mike Gallagher, Bill Frady, and Charlie James wraps things up. I'm back tomorrow at 5 a.m. for your first cup of coffee on Sunrise, Carolina. Until then, remember, folks, God's got this. He's still in control. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself, if you're looking for a new appliance, to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com. DAWPickens.com. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.